Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Reds with
Larry
and Inelia. So, we've been talking about something today that we thought we would share with everyone else too.
Right, well, it seems to come up, right?
It's been coming up quite a lot, huh?
Quite a lot last week.
Yeah.
In our travels and our interactions, our endeavors. It's a thing that comes, I guess.
To be looked at.
Yeah.
To be acknowledged.
To be looked at. So why don't we just look at it?
Yeah, we will look at it, acknowledge it, and also understand it.
Yeah.
From a perspective that is, I would say, very accurate and not absolutely obvious. And even when it's obvious, you tend to fall for it.
It's still, I mean, if it's excellent bait, you're going to fall for it. I mean, that's the purpose of the bait.
Yes.
And so part of the process of looking at it is to expand into, I guess, different perspectives. Different perspectives,
and also acknowledge that it's bait, right? And do everything we can to minimize the desire to join this thing. And basically we're talking about the election in the United States, and I'm sure that this same little method is being used in elections all over the world, which is to take sides.
One side is very obviously the right side.
Right.
I mean, anyone who can't see that,
I know,
I mean, what's wrong with them?
I know, yeah. It's obvious what the side is for the light.
Yes, completely true. Absolutely, huh?
Yeah.
We can resist anything but temptation.
Yes.
Isn't that what you say?
Yes. Well, I didn't say it. Originally, it was James Joyce, I believe, but
you've claimed it.
I've claimed it. I've lived my life by it. I can resist anything but temptation. It was not a good way to live, but I had to admit it. I have since grown up enough not to be swayed by temptation.
Not quite as often.
Not as often, anyways. But anyway, look, what we're looking at is the way in which choosing a side during an election, it's so very, I don't know, sexy, seductive, and it's like, by choosing a side and making the other guy the bad guy, that's when you are feeding the beast.
That is the very definition of divide and conquer.
Yes, that's the very definition of it. And yeah, it's basically that. It's basically that you are feeding the beast. It's not about one side or the other. They're all the same. They're not real, really real. It's like a massive reality show that's all scripted and designed for you to take a side. It doesn't matter which side.
And don't assume or imagine that even though it's scripted, that means that each line is written by somebody else, and then the other guy has to follow the lines. Because while that does happen, sure, most of the scripting is done by the willing. The willing is the player of the script.
Yeah.
And when the willing player moves or deviates a little from the script, then another something comes in, right, to push it back on script.
Right.
So it's not like this guy is solely the pawn of this guy, and that guy is the one that's the bad guy for reals, and that's the one we gotta go get. It's the scripted.
And that is exactly the whole script, right?
Right.
That buys the real bad guy.
That's the next script.
Yeah, that's the next one. So
you find the one that's really in charge.
Yes, exactly. If you think, oh well, if these are all scripted, then who's doing the scripting? That's the bad guy.
That's the one.
And that's when you fall into the victim aggressor and decides, take sides, and you're divided, instantly divided.
And now your division is those who know and those who don't know.
Yeah.
The mindless pawns. Fallen victim of this script, and yet you have fallen into that same script.
Yeah.
Just the next step.
Yeah, it's
not even the next step. It's the same step.
It's like an onion, isn't it? You peel, you take one peel off, and then there's another one underneath it.
Yeah.
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 So one might think, well, if I don't do that, and there are bad guys in the planet, then what do I do? Do you have any answers, Mary?
I'm sure I have a ton of answers.
Let's hear some.
Well, one thing you can do is step out of that game. I think that game is called victim aggressor, and it's called savior martyr. Those are pretty much the titles that have been assigned to that type of game. One that's really fun to play, victim of. Well, it doesn't sound like it's so fun. But somebody needs to play both sides of the game. I mean, you're going to play cowboys and Indians. Who's going to be the cowboy? Who's going to be the Indian?
Right.
I mean, some days you want to be riding a horse with boots and a hat, and some days you prefer to be riding a horse with no saddle at all.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer is you just move outside of that game. You move your agreement outside of that game. And although you exist in the collective of everyone, and there are lots playing that game, you don't engage as best you are capable of not engaging. And you gather with others that aren't also engaging in that same level of whatever, and you start to create your new rules of engagement, right, by living them, being them. I suppose that oft quoted phrase, be the change you want to see.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So what would your answer be?
Well, those are good answers. What I have found is individuals will come up and say, do you mean we just have to ignore all the bad guys and just hope for the best? And that's part of it. It's like there are no bad guys. It's a co-creation on the planet. We're co-creating everything. It's us. We are doing it. And if you want to find out how to stop yourself from creating an aggressor, then you have to step out of the victim-aggressor cycle by refusing to be a victim, right? Owning, 100% owning all of your experiences. Now, there's a really interesting discussion on Walk With Me Now right now about being affected, right, by others and the Gaia contract and stuff. And the way that I perceive it, and sorry about the noise, it started raining really heavily on the track.
Looks like it'll quit.
Yeah, it looks like it will pass. But the part that an individual could miss is that being affected is when somebody creates a change in something else or someone else. Then they're affecting that thing or that person.
Their reaction. They're in reaction.
The person at the receiving end is in reaction and will be controlled by the person doing the affecting.
Like a dog, right? Or a cat or anything else that's really not able to move past reaction.
Exactly.
If you give food on the floor, they're just going to come eat it.
Right.
If you tell them, don't eat that food, sure, a well-trained dog will sit there until you've gone away for a while, and then it's like coming for the food.
So, one thing to remember is that if some stuff, like somebody shouts at me in the street, I have a choice of whether to get angry or not get angry. My body will react, but I have an option to go with that reaction and shout back or hit them, or respond and acknowledge that they're angry, not necessarily verbally, but step away, move away, or do something else. Not get controlled by their invitation to argue or shout.
Which is the script, right?
That is the script, and that is a form of feeding the beast, but also being affected by someone else is when we allow the other person to control us and to cause negative change in us. Of course, we can be also positively affected, in which case we allow another person or situation or being to positively create positive changes in us. But that's also conscious, right? We become conscious of what we allow to affect us day to day, and then we step out of that mindset that somebody else is at fault, or
or someone else is to, I guess in a sense, to blame for our positive or our negative.
Right.
There's somebody else's
did it. Yeah. And with this election coming up, what can you do? Embody the new frequencies, know that it's all a game, don't participate in it at all, and start creating your new tribes, your structures, and ways of living that is independent from what we have created so far, which is a government and social structures that don't actually support the individual sovereignty.
Right. What we've done is created a Guild of Gaia, Brides and Grooms of Gaia contract, a new form of relationship with the planet and how we live on it.
Yeah.
And so we embody that instead of picking who's right, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But the temptation is, well, I totally more align and agree with the things that this individual is saying than that individual is saying. And that is the design.
That is the design.
That is what is supposed to happen.
Exactly. They're saying those things so you do agree or disagree with the certain individual more than the other.
If you didn't even have a little bit of a this person agreement, if the game wouldn't work not one tiny bit, because nobody would like either one, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And in this case, and in all the cases, mostly, you have to have a preference. A strong preference is preferred to just a mild preference. If you have a mild preference, they do, they don't, you know, where's the energy behind that to create any kind of a control or a structure or a rift or a reaction or anything? You have to care a lot. And so if you find yourself caring a lot, like if this person doesn't win, it's over at that degree, you know you've been...
You're being affected.
You've taken the bait.
Yeah, you've taken the bait.
And it's a hard thing. Trust me, I believe you. I know.
I always get very suspicious when the media and the government starts putting people against each other.
Right, vilifying someone.
Yeah.
Or vilifying a group like the police or whatever.
Yeah. So it's like, I get suspicious because it's people against people.
Exactly.
And whenever there's a people against people, it's a way to manipulate the people not to go against the person who's ruling the place. Always. It's always about that. And often, apart from that, it also can be about making profit. So follow the money trail to see who's pulling the strings, you know, behind the whole conflict.
And there's multiple agendas, but you know that at the level of the game that they're playing is in the $1 trillion corporation company game. You know that one is an intentional game. There's not a lot of accidents, but they will definitely take advantage of whatever accident might appear.
Yes.
So most everything is intentional at this point, right? It's intentionally designed to create you feeling one way or another strongly.
Yes. Dividing.
That's a division. That's how you are divided.
Us and other. Once you have step into the us and other or me and other,
you're in it.
You're in it. So how to step out of it?
Now that's a good one.
Well, becoming aware. You're listening to this podcast, right?
Yeah,
that's part of it. It's becoming aware of it and seeing to what degree or where are you,
where am
aligning?
I engaged at that level?
Yeah. Are you engaged to that level? Even if you say, well, I'm not really into politics, but I would prefer such and such to win because, they're against vaccinations. Boom, you're in.
Yeah, well, that was why the other one is for them.
Exactly.
I mean, clearly, right?
Clearly.
And we're talking about things like this and an election that's designed to gather and divide a culture, community, group, state, city, country, world.
Yes.
We're not talking about, I prefer Inelia Benz's commentary and the way that she explains things to blah, blah, blah's way of explaining things. That's not what we're talking about.
No, that's not it.
We're not talking about what I do prefer and don't prefer. We're talking about specifically this game.
Yeah. Taking sides.
Taking sides in an election, for example. Right. So we've been raised here to view an election as our I suppose we'd call it our God-given right that we fought and died for. And so if you don't participate, you're, what's the word? You're disrespecting all those people who died for your right, right?
Yes.
Which is, when you're in it and you stand to the flag in the morning every day at school, pledge allegiance to the flag, indivisible and all of that other stuff. And after a lifetime of doing that, don't think for a second that hasn't affected you in some way on an unconscious and a very, very, very fundamental level. That exists within you, right? And so when that flag thing is brought about and someone stands by it who represents it, they take that power that has been instilled and distilled into you from childhood and they tweak on it and they pull on it. Yeah. And then, as you've seen with the masks or no masks or the this or the that, the people around you enforce it.
They do.
And strengthen
It's
it and
amazing.
create the power of it. It is powerless without everyone around you pushing it.
Right.
Because you can wake up eventually and say, oh, wait a minute, this is a bunch of malarkey, right?
Yeah.
But guess what happens when you go to a high school basketball game, or you could go to an NFL game? What happens? Somebody kneels or somebody does something, create uproar, or you don't stand up to the flag and do the whatever singing. What are you? You're the pariah sitting down amongst a million who don't. So what are you going to do as a herd animal?
Right.
Yeah. Well, as David Icke likes to say, you're the lion.
Exactly.
The lion doesn't care what the sheep think.
Yes.
Easy to say.
Yes.
Admittedly, very, very tough to do.
Yes. Yes. It can be, when you've been indoctrinated to that degree, it's very hard not to do what others do, right?
And part of the reason that you're interested and engaged in doing some of the work you're doing, raising the frequency of the planet, right, is because you actually care about people and what they think. If you didn't care about people and what they think, you wouldn't care whether or not they wake up or don't wake up, whether they raise their frequency or don't raise their frequency. You wouldn't care about any of that stuff,
No,
but you do,
wouldn't.
which is why it's such excellent bait.
It is very, very good bait for those who care.
Right.
Yeah. Even the wear a mask so you can protect
Others. It's only because I only care about others, that's why I wear it.
Exactly, yeah. It's aimed at light workers, or light beings, I should say.
Right, but with the mask thing, it's only I care about others and that's why I wear it. All at the same time, you're signaling at another level, there's something to be very afraid of, and it's me.
Yes.
So I'm going to protect you from me.
From me.
Do you see how that message is clear?
Oh,
even though it's subconscious?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, how are you going to be afraid of an invisible thing?
Right. I am infectious. I am
And you should stay away from me.
And stay away from me, yeah.
The most dangerous thing, which is coming up pretty soon, that'll be clear, everyone gets the message next. Who is the most dangerous person and the most dangerous people to you for you to get infected from? Guess who? Your close family.
Yeah.
That's where 90% of the infections come from. The close family. So what are we going to do to fix it? We're going to have to separate our families even better.
Yeah. Divide. I mean, this
the
is
family
divide and
even.
conquer.
Just
to
keep
the
taking it to the level that you want to see at, right? Now you can understand when you see people who are railing against it and saying, that's enough, you got to stop this. They can already see where it goes.
Yeah.
And, they don't want to go there.
They don't want to go there.
But how is that different than having a side?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, it's similar.
Yeah.
It is the game, right?
Uh-huh. One of the other things that I've noticed, even from people who are awake, is that one of the things that affect also the entire, you have to wear a mask or whatever, is the seeking of approval by others, so that the mob doesn't attack you.
Right. I have noticed that too.
Yeah, so I've known individuals who will go to the store and will wear a mask, but they will leave their nose out because, they can't breathe otherwise, right? And they come out and says, oh my God, that was so stressful. Everybody was staring at me because I didn't put it over my nose. And I'm pretty sure that's not actually true. But it's that sense of wanting approval and going against the grain, right? You're going against the grain even to a tiny degree. But you need that approval from the masses, from everybody else, the flock. The
flock that you're a part of is like, that's what I did. And they say, okay, good, that's good. Yeah, I know it's uncomfortable, but you got to, You're good.
Yeah.
Somebody has to say you're good about that. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's like they feel uncomfortable. Even somebody who's aware on everything goes into a store, and outside there's a notice that says you cannot come in unless you're wearing a mask, right? Wearing a mask at all times.
Right.
And so you put on the mask. I've done it. I went into.
Put it on your chin.
Yeah, put it on my chin.
Got a mask.
I had to hold it. I held it about a foot away from my face because I couldn't breathe at all. And I can't have things touching my face. Plus, I don't agree with the whole thing. And I didn't actually care that anybody saw me or whatever, but I could see that somebody did something similar, and they told me, people were giving me dirty looks when I did that, right, in the store. And I'm like, okay, so that's our interpretation. It's an interpretation of people were disapproving of me.
Yeah, that's the assumption you bring.
That's the assumption, yeah. Because it's already that fear of not being approved by others. Like you have to fit in and you have to be liked by everybody else.
It's a body thing, isn't it?
It is a body thing, yes. They want to be liked by everybody, want to be loved by everyone. And I'm sure there's many people listening today, many people who are listening, who can totally relate to programs running that they have had running where they want to be approved by others or another, right?
Yeah.
It's so very important for physical bodies. And it's a program that is hard to get away from. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, we started a new program on our dock, and that is the wearing of, you have to have a mask on the dock and to sell your fish. And one of the fellas, myself included, will wear our mask on our chin, and now it's infected everyone. Even the boss running around with with the mask on their chin. Every now and then, it reverts back to nose over your nose and everything.
Strange.
But in a very short time, it's back around your chin because obviously it's completely impractical for those location
And
to
the
use something
physical
that's
work.
completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
They're soaking wet, covered with fish lime. Come on, guys, get with the program.
Yeah.
But in order to go fishing, you have to have that. That's the rules, so that's what we do.
Yep.
But you can see how it gets modified. The modified behavior is I'm doing what you said, but kind of not.
That's
I got my
right.
mask with me, but I'm not going to wear it. Or whatever, it's like, how much can you get away with, right?
Right. Personally speaking, for me, my physical body does not like other people's attacks.
Right.
She reacts very badly to it.
In a temptation way, right?
Yeah.
A little bit like, oh yeah, you want one? You want some of this? Come in, give me some. But you're not allowed to be engaged at that
No,
level.
I'm not allowed to engage at that aggressive level, so it's like, it's staying out of the bar, You stay out of the bar if you're an alcoholic. Just stay out of the bar.
Don't
go
go to the bar.
It's
If
not
you're
good
a gambling
idea.
addict, don't go to the casino,
If you're
even for
gambling
food.
Yeah, don't go there. Just don't go, okay?
There's other places with food, even buffets.
Yes.
You don't have to go to casino for food.
Exactly. Right? So,
We used to go to the bar for chicken.
for chicken.
Oh yeah, chicken at the inn.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, they have the best chicken anywhere.
Yeah, when you were very, very drunk, it tastes real good.
Oftentimes the chicken took so long, we didn't even eat it when it finally came.
So if you're an alcoholic, stay out of the bar. If
No
you're a gambling
chicken.
addict, stay out of the
No buffet.
casino. And if you're like to scrap with people,
Don't enter the store with your mask not exactly the way it's supposed
exactly,
to.
right?
Because there's going to be some scraps.
You're gonna attract it, man. You're gonna attract it because that's what you went there for. So yeah, it's like that approval thing, and also the body reactions, and you just take care of yourself. Don't engage, minimize it, and educate yourself, educate others. We had a situation where somebody came to do some work at the shaman shack, and there is very physically taxing work. And
He wasn't a young fella neither.
no, he was probably in his 80s,
Easily, yeah.
70s maybe. And he
sure
arrived,
he
he put on his mask, and he came over, and I said, hey dude, you don't have to wear that mask around me or here if you don't want to. And I said, no, I have to. He said, I have to. And the whole day he was very diligent about wearing his mask, even when he was on his own out there. And he put it on his face, and then when I came out he wanted to ask me some questions, and I came out, and I said, looked at the mask, and it was filthy. I said, okay, so if you're going to wear a mask, I'm going to give you a new one. I have some in the garage for dust and stuff. I'm going to get you one because your mask is nasty, man. That's going to make you sick. And he looked at me with big eyes, and he said, no, it's actually new, but my hands are all dirty, so because I hold it against my face, it makes it dirty. But it's okay, it's new. And I said, oh, okay, well, all right, so later if you need one, you just ask me. He says, okay. And he carried on with his mask. He was very diligent. He stayed 6 feet away from me at all times. The next day he arrives, super bright and bushy-tailed, no mask. And he made a point of standing at a correctly social distance, as in when we were looking at the same piece of paper together, he was standing right next to me, and he was smiling, no mask, and completely different. So sometimes, it takes one person not to care about what other people, of looking for approval, or trying to make another person more comfortable, even,
Right.
to have that effect on somebody, like a positive effect.
Well, we consider it a positive effect, of course, but I'm sure there's plenty of others who consider that corrupting.
Yeah, we've corrupted this guy.
That poor guy.
Yeah.
Now look, he's going to die, and it's your
No,
fault.
he's not going to die. He's going to kill other people, remember?
Oh, right. He's going to kill other people.
Yeah.
So that's an example of the divide and conquer, though, right?
Yes.
So
it is.
how do we respond instead of react?
Well, the way that I respond is when it's my turf, it's my rules, and I tell them this is my rules. If you want to abide by them, as long as it's not like something hurtful or nasty, if you're my turf, you have that freedom, right?
Right, but if he wants to wear a mask at Joe's house,
Yeah.
it's fine. Do it or don't do it. It's irrelevant to me.
And if I go into somebody else's house and they're maskers and they're wearing masks, I will stay outside,
Probably,
And
right.
I stay 6 feet away from them to respect their turf. Because I don't care. I'm not making them wrong. I'm not going to make them wrong, right? I'm just giving them an option if they're in my turf, and if they don't want that option, that's fine too.
How about they have a giant Trump sign in their yard or a giant Biden sign in the yard?
I don't mind at all either way.
Will
It's
you
like,
go in or out or don't care?
No, I don't
what
care
if
at all.
They're trying to convince you that this one's right, and if you don't believe them, I mean, you really can't be friends with
well,
them.
they would not know that I don't believe them, right? They would never find out because I wouldn't argue against them.
No,
if
I'm
they
saying
say-
if they say Biden is our man and he's going to save us, because if we don't get Biden, I mean, the world's over.
That's brilliant.
Trump is the guy. If you don't have Trump, we're going to have a civil war.
That's brilliant.
Boy, you sure don't push much against anything, do you?
No.
But they're wrong, honey.
No, they're right. They're both right.
Are you
right?
sure?
Absolutely,
How
they're
can they
both
both
right.
be right?
Because they're right in themselves, and that's what matters.
Because they're right in the world that they want to be in.
Exactly. They're
So what
exactly.
about this
Say that
part?
again. They're right in the world they want to be in.
Right.
Right?
So one of the issues then is obviously that game, they're engaged within that game, and that's a world you don't want to be in. The one
Right.
that cares one way or the other about either one of those two.
Yeah. And
So now
one
what
of
do
the I do believe, and I say believe because I can't prove it right now. I can't prove it, but I do believe very strongly that the believe has the word lie in it. So it could be that you're wrong when you believe something. That's why I say that.
That's why you need belief, otherwise you would know.
Yes, exactly.
You gotta believe it, otherwise you'd know.
Exactly. So I believe that this whole vaccination thing, we created an agreement within the planetary level that this is a horrific thing to happen to a body, and each person has to do it by their own hand. Right. They have to actually apply that genetic material directly onto their body. Nobody else can do it for them. Not even a doctor or a nurse. They can't do it. They have to do it themselves.
They can be compelled, but they cannot be forced.
Exactly. They can be compelled and tricked into it, but they have to actually grab the thing and put it on themselves.
The only compelling and the only trick is through fear.
Yes.
Fear of.
So it's like, by their own hand, they shall apply it. By their own hand, they shall destroy themselves. By their own hand,
They will agree to fear.
Yes. So that's part of the whole divide and conquer thing. You cannot judge a person for deciding at a higher self level to go into fear and apply that into their body. You can't blame them for that or fight against them or try to convince them otherwise. It's their higher self. Yeah? But at the same time, if they're willing to listen, of course you can put in your viewpoint of what this is all about. Okay?
So with that bit that you've just spoken of in the United States in particular, I believe I don't know if it's true because that's why I say I believe, but I believe it's true that Trump has said vaccinations will be voluntary and available, but no one will ever be forced to have a vaccination. And Biden has said things opposite of that, such as we need to have mandatory vaccinations and mandatory lockdowns and things like that. And of course, he's a politician. So both of them are, susceptible to that one thing that all politicians do.
Right.
Just say whatever they think you want to hear. But at the same time, it feels like, and I think that may be part of it, it feels like if you don't want a mandatory vaccination that you would vote for Trump, for example.
That would be a very
that
good
would be
way.
your biggest, push. Is like I gotta vote for that one because the other one's gonna make me get a shot, and I don't want a shot.
Right. So that
But
would be
both
very
of them
good
could be
bait.
lying.
They're both lying.
They're both lying.
Remember all the promises and all the things that candidates
Obama.
say. Yeah, that's the biggest one, right? Hope,
Change. Oops.
And nothing changed.
We had war.
Nothing.
That was kind of a change, though. We had a lot of wars,
More
and
wars.
he got a Peace Prize for it.
I know, peace prize for war, man.
That was very unusual, I thought.
Yeah.
I
So
don't get it. And a spiral. Remember that spiral?
Whatever they're saying is not going to be the thing, right? It's not going to be what happens. So it's just to divide and conquer. And ultimately, actually, the president or even the people don't have like a say in it. It's actually the human collective that's dictating and orchestrating what will actually happen.
So in that case, either one you voted for,
It
the
doesn't
net
matter.
result was going to be in the specific topic that we're talking about, which would be I'm going to get a shot or I'm not going to get a shot.
It doesn't matter who you vote
Irrelevant,
for.
because neither one of them will be able to force you or not force you to do something.
Exactly.
It will still be your choice in the end.
And it is also true that there are some countries in the planet which are going to force it, tie people down and vaccinate them. And that is also true. And it's also true that those individuals at a higher self-level decided to be born there. Right?
Exactly.
So,
Which feels like a bummer from here, but they wouldn't matter if they were here or there. They would still wouldn't have got the shot.
they would have. One way or another, that choice would have come true.
That choice would have still been
Yes.
true. Right. So that's the expansion of level.
That's why I said I believe this is what we've decided. It's going to have to be done by their own hand. And it might be literally by their own hand if it's like a little sticker that they sell.
Yes, Band-Aid that you put on.
Yeah, Band-Aid that you put on. It might be literally by this person's hand. If I'm wrong in this, that's why I said I believe, again, the word believe, and they do force it, then it's going to create a rift. So that's so big that it's just not even possible.
Insurmountable.
So, insurmountable rift.
Right. I have seen plenty of people say if they come at me with that, they're going to be coming with a needle and I'm going to be holding a gun.
Gun, yeah.
So needle or gun,
Yeah.
which one?
Yeah. I know that as a light worker,
You've said that before too, something about guns, don't give them up.
Yes, I've said it over and over again. I've seen it time and again when a government or whatever starts making guns illegal and taking them from the people. I know there is a dictatorship on the horizon. And I don't care if people think that they vote to somebody in or not. It's a dictatorship and it's on the horizon. They're going to take your rights away very, very quickly. It is true. In England, I saw it happen. People used to be able to own a gun in England. No more. They can't own guns anymore. And they've tried it here in the United States over
Multiple
and over.
times, with
and
multiple
it was
setups.
it was harsh because usually it was the more liberal people saying, no, we don't need guns. We should give them all back, and guns are bad, and bad people kill people with guns and stuff. And I would say, bad people have illegal guns, and they're going to have illegal guns whether another person has them or not. And says, well, what about all the shootings and blah, blah, blah. And, there's plenty of videos out there. There's a really famous one where this guy who was in, Prozac or whatever, went into a fast food place or a cafeteria, and he was covered in guns, and he was like going to kill everybody. And starts before he first shot out. This old guy, like in his 80s or 90s, stands up, takes his gun out of his holster, and shoots him dead, right? And then everybody's safe. And that was
he did it in
gun.
Texas, I think.
He had a legal gun.
Yeah, his gun was legal, and the other one had illegal guns.
Oh yeah, the other guy had tons and tons of illegal guns on him. So, you know, it's like that. Again, it's really easy to fall into the victim-aggressor stuff and defend ourselves and stuff. But, you know, if they do try to force anything like that, there's going to be a rift and it's going to be that way. And I know that the people who support guns are mostly the right-wing people, the racists and all these individuals, survivalists, very, very us versus them kind of people. But in this paradigm that we've been living so far, I've always encouraged people to have a gun. Not because they're going to go to war, but as a last resort. If the people have guns, the government is less likely to become a dictatorship. It's just the way it is. At least in the West. In the countries that I've lived in, right?
Right.
Before the coup in Chile in 1973, a few months earlier, they made guns illegal and everybody had to give up their guns. Right?
And what day did they have their coup? September 11th.
Yes, because it's a mystical date, right? That comes around every so many years.
Mysterious.
I
What a
knew at the time when I was 7 years old, I knew at the time that it was a blood sacrifice. And I told my parents, this has nothing to do with politics. This has nothing to do with socialism and capitalism. It has nothing to do with those things. This is a blood ritual. This is about light and dark. Right? This has nothing to do with anything else. Look at what they've destroyed. The idealism, the heart of Gaia, the heart of nature, the heart of the human collective. That's what they're doing. And so it's very easy to fall into the victim-aggressor, us versus them. I'm a very good shot, but I don't carry a gun because I don't want to manifest situations where I have to use my gun. Again, if you're an addict, don't go to the bar. And I have a warrior energy in me that is very powerful. I was trained when I was a kid in many things, and I have to step away from that. Just step away. I did Taekwondo as a young woman, and my sensei would make us run for the first half hour. I think it was a 2-hour class. I can't remember. It was a long class, once a week. And he would make us run for the first half hour, and we kept complaining. One day we asked, why do you make us run, And he said, because you're training to become a deadly weapon. And when you're a deadly weapon, when somebody attacks you, you run away, because the last thing you want to do is to kill them. And I'm like, whoa, that makes total sense, man. That makes a total sense. So personally speaking, I don't carry a gun myself. We do have guns for bears and cougars or whatever, so I might want to get our dogs and stuff, but yeah.
I'm the one who shoots at them, and I don't shoot to
No,
get
and
them, actually. I just shoot around them, and they know what that
Yeah,
means,
exactly,
and they
they know. And they're big guns and
They
hard
make a
to...
loud noise.
They make a loud noise. They take a while for you to load them and everything else.
And if you shoot tannerite, it makes a nice big explosion.
Yeah.
If you don't know what tannerite is, you should look it up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But I don't carry a handgun because that's a gun for humans, and I just don't want that in my life. I just don't want it. So I don't have it. I don't have it in my house, and I don't own it, I should say. I don't own
I don't
one.
want any dead people on our doorstep.
No. Exactly.
I just don't want any.
Yeah.
Or around us anywhere.
And when a warrior carries a gun like that, that's what they're...
Kind of happens. Like here, I'm inviting you to come engage me.
Exactly.
At this level.
Suicide by gun.
Yeah. I still can't believe, I can believe it because I can see it with my own eyes, that you saw correctly years ago that there would be a gate.
At the res?
At the res.
Yeah,
and
that
you
was
would have
6 years ago I saw a gate.
6 years ago, I saw a gate at the cemetery, at the reservation. To get on, you had to pass through a gate, and there's a guard, and nobody can get on except for macaws and the guests of macaws.
And residents.
Residents, right.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Nearby residents. Yep, and we have a gate now.
And it's completely implausible. There's a guardhouse and a gate.
Yeah.
And It's like you're entering the president's compound.
No.
There's red cones, and there's a building, and there's police there, and the lights and sirens are on.
Yeah.
There's a fence, and there's cement things.
Well, it's not a fence. It's kind of sideways fence where it's a stop sign and everything.
They have the little things to come out.
Oh, yeah, they do. They can't close it over.
Yeah, they just push those cement things over with their machine, and they're done.
They're done.
We have a fence. We have a fence.
Yeah.
Those ones who are against the fence, guess what? We have a fence.
We have a fence. We do literally have a fence at the shaman site now,
Now
too.
we do too there, yeah. Fences make for good dogs.
Yes.
Morning!
Morning, guys.
Heading to the sea is just two of us. See ya. That's so still. At the time that you told me that, I was like, I was thinking about, and that's kind of like the same thing with the event or the split or the blah blah. It's like, I was thinking, well, I guess energetically there's a fence. There's not literally a guardhouse there, but it is
energetically
energetically separate as a reservation and whatnot, which is similar to the event is on September 40th, 1974 or whatever, and then it comes and it goes. Like, well, it was a spiritual event. An internal event. It was a subtle event. It was like, don't cop out like that.
Yeah.
But in this case, I was thinking, well, there's not literally a fence or a gate or a guard there.
I was surprised there wasn't. When I first arrived, I thought, where's the fence?
Maybe you came
here.
Maybe you came a bit early.
Maybe.
No, you were a bit late.
A bit late, 6 years old.
You had to get kicked out of California, remember?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, now there is literally that you saw.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
And you've always said you're not very good at linear time, so...
No, linear time and dates, I'm very bad at those. Yeah. I have often gotten years wrong.
So instead of saying next time there's a gate there, you could say there will be a gate there.
I don't know about that.
We'll just change your literal linear.
Translation.
We'll translate your literal linear into if it isn't, it will.
Yes, translation.
If it's not yet, it shall be.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of times when I've said things and then when the time goes by, I can see that I have misinterpreted the message, right? I've seen an image, it's very clear, and I would interpret it in one way, but actually it was different. It was a different thing. But it was the same image.
Got it.
It was just interpreted through my own belief systems or programs or whatever's. So I've learned to just report what I see rather than interpret what I see. Yeah.
Well, that's a good skill. And I think you made a class about that.
I did. I do have a class. You can find it at ineliabenz.com.
What is that class called?
I don't remember.
Ilya, maybe he can put it in the notes, show notes, or
show notes, yeah. I don't remember.
We'll figure out how to get it through.
But
I'm pretty sure
you go through the whole class. You figure it out.
You have a new website, so would you be able to search for it?
Oh yeah, it's not new, but it's just structured differently. It's
So-
easier to navigate.
So
You
you
could
go
be
to
the
the
mystical
search-
skills one, maybe. It could be this mystical skills
What
for
would you-
everyday life, maybe.
Mystical skills for everyday life.
Could be that one.
I think that it had to do something with
Oh, remote viewing one, maybe.
might have been a remote viewing, but it's basically the one where you report what it is that you see literally.
Yes.
Don't censor it.
Right. And
Right.
don't interpret it. Just
And don't
report.
interpret it, just report it.
It's
and
yellow and round.
then, yellow and round,
Yeah,
and then you
that's-
can worry about interpretation at another time. But
Yeah.
at the time of seeing, you just literally
Yes.
express what you see.
Exactly.
So that class is very, very good if you want to build up your remote viewing or your
Mystical
traveling
skills.
mystical skill. If you want to go look somewhere else in now, something else in the future, on another planet or another place, or even across the country, or maybe to see if the mini mart's open or not,
Or maybe, the mini
or check on your auntie, who may or may not be in the bathroom at the time.
Yes.
That's a
people
story.
but people are very good at blocking their bathrooms, even bedrooms, from remote viewers, Because we like privacy, you know, when we go to party. Or we're sleeping.
Certainly all of our friends do.
Yes. So we block it, so there's no need to worry about people watching you while you go party or having sex in your bedroom or whatever. So, you know,
So if you do go looking somewhere and you find that you can't find that person, you can't get in, it's probably that they're in the bathroom or they're, you know, doing things they don't want you to see.
Exactly, yeah. Well, we are at the res, obviously.
So one of the things that our mini audience survey suggested was go back over what it was the topic was.
Well, we
And
did that.
make sure that we
Good,
covered it.
yeah.
And I think that if we went to the beginning and thought about it, it was becoming engaged in preference and voting an election.
Taking sides.
Taking a side. And how
by taking sides, you're feeding the beast.
right. So we're speaking specifically about elections, and we have one coming up, which I think that's obvious if you take the time to look around, that the two positions are very, very separate.
Yes. Very
and very strongly held by a lot of people.
Polar almost.
So even if you don't hold them strongly, if you're just strongly against the other, that's still a strongly held position, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because oftentimes I will see the narrative of the lesser of two evils, or
I've heard that one
kind
before.
of thing, right?
Yeah, I've heard that one before too. Yeah.
So that's also a strongly held thing, but it's redirected. Not that I like him, but I just hate that one.
Right.
So those are all the same game.
Yes.
And so I guess the solution is to understand that that's the bait, and you have the choice to bite the bait or not bite the bait.
Yeah.
You aren't beholden to that game, even though it feels like a very serious game, life or death.
I know.
If it didn't feel like a life or death game, the bait wouldn't work. Again, it's all the bait. So if you ever saw a fish biting a hook with bait on it, and you told that fish, "Don't bite the bait, there's a hook in there," then you were probably a starseed. But that same lesson applies to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't bite that bait.
Yeah.
Just don't bite that bait.
Just don't bite it, man. Hey, maybe that's why fish don't get caught when I'm in a boat.
Huh.
Their
Yeah,
awareness
you've expanded their
expands,
awareness to
and
the
they-
degree that they don't bite the bait.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice. Now we've finally resolved that.
That's what it is.
That's a lifelong problem,
Oh
those
my
fish.
gosh, yeah.
We do not want smart fish. Sorry, you need to stay home.
Yeah, I can't go on a fishing boat. Nobody catches anything.
Nobody catches
and
any
no
of the
boat
fish.
around us catches anything
The
either.
fish don't bite the bait.
Yeah,
I tried all the bait there is, too.
you did. Very
didn't
good
bite
bait.
any of that bait.
No, nothing.
Maybe if I had tied it on without a hook.
Cook.
I'm going to try that sometime, see if the bait gets ate.
Yeah,
Got it.
got it.
I feel like we're complete.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
So go to Walk With Me Now for your tribe and to hang out with us. And go to ineliabenz.com for the newsletter, to be told when the new podcast comes out and all these type of things.
Yeah.
Get all the tools and things that you need and want. It's great. And yeah.
Yeah, or walk with me now. We could talk about, instead of biting that bait with a hook in it, what might we do instead?
Exactly, yeah.
And if we want to
Exactly.
talk about it in a conversation-wise, we could go to Talk With Me Now and just chat immediately.
Yes, which is part of, Walk With Me Now.
But Walk With Me Now is
The
instant.
members, spontaneously created a Telegram called Talk With Me Now for Walk With Me Now members. And the conversations go back and forth from the forum, and an instant conversation happens.
In real time, all around the
real
planet.
time, all around the world. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Love you,
Thank
honey.
you for listening. I love you too, darling.